Long before an American astronaut entered space, another heartbeat raced toward the unknown, belonging to a young chimpanzee whose destiny would become forever linked with humanity's greatest leap. During the late 1950s, the Cold War transformed space into a fierce battleground, where every successful launch promised scientific progress, political prestige, and strategic military advantage. Yet one critical question remained unanswered. Could a living mind continue making intelligent decisions while enduring violent launch, weightlessness, and the crushing forces of return? Machines measured acceleration and recorded movement, but no instrument could reveal whether conscious thought survived, when every instinct desperately struggled simply to endure. Far away in the forests of what was then French Cameroon, a young chimpanzee began life completely unaware that rockets and global rivalry awaited his future. Captured as an infant during the wildlife trade, he crossed the Atlantic inside a wooden crate, traveling not for exploration, but as part of international commerce. Eventually, he arrived in the United States, where the U.S. Air Force searched for an extraordinary recruit whose mind closely resembled that of human beings.
We needed intelligence, not simply strength or obedience.
They needed an intelligent animal, capable of perception, problem-solving, and reliable responses under extraordinary physical conditions. Among many candidates, one energetic juvenile quickly stood apart. Officially, researchers identified him only as number 65, avoiding personal names to discourage emotional attachment. Each day became a carefully structured routine, where flashing lights, levers, and precise responses gradually formed a communication system between biology, technology, and scientific observation. Correct actions earned banana pellets, while hesitation brought harmless bursts of air against his feet, reinforcing decisions essential for the demanding mission that awaited him. These exercises were never simple tricks. Scientists were teaching number 65 to communicate through deliberate actions, while facing conditions impossible to recreate perfectly inside laboratories. As training intensified, powerful centrifuges recreated crushing launch acceleration, forcing his body through relentless physical stress, while researchers monitored every response with unwavering attention. Pressure chambers simulated thinning atmosphere, while violent vibrations shook every restraint, closely reproducing the terrifying environment expected during the ascent aboard a powerful rocket. Electrodes continuously measured breathing, heartbeat, muscle activity, and brain function, providing engineers with vital evidence about intelligent performance, under conditions no human had yet experienced. Every successful test brought number 65 closer to a mission destined to influence the future of Project Mercury and the course of American human spaceflight. Only weeks before launch, researchers finally gave the chimpanzee a name. Number 65 became Ham, and history's countdown quietly moved one step closer. Winter settled over Cape Canaveral as technicians worked beneath brilliant floodlights, preparing a spacecraft built to prove that living passengers could survive beyond Earth's atmosphere. Every cable, valve, and electrical circuit served a single purpose: safely carrying a living traveler into space, before returning that passenger home through Earth's unforgiving atmosphere. Success would open the path for America's astronauts, while failure threatened to delay Project Mercury, placing the nation's ambitions and confidence in serious jeopardy. Before dawn on January 31st, 1961, Ham's morning followed a familiar routine. As veterinarians completed examinations, and engineers carefully attached miniature monitoring sensors across his body. Every sensor transmitted heartbeat, breathing, temperature, and movement into continuous streams of telemetry, allowing scientists to observe his condition throughout every moment of the mission. Unlike earlier biological flights focused only on survival, this mission required constant performance. Ham had to continue completing trained tasks throughout the entire spaceflight. Inside the compact Mercury capsule, space was extremely limited. Restrained firmly on his couch, Ham faced the instrument panel, practiced countless times during months of preparation. Every light, lever, and response followed familiar patterns. If a blue light appeared, Ham had only seconds to pull the correct lever accurately. Consistent responses would prove that higher brain function remained effective during spaceflight, while hesitation or mistakes could raise serious concerns about future human missions. Outside, the towering Mercury-Redstone rocket stood nearly 25 meters tall, its liquid-fueled engine waiting silently beneath layers of metal, insulation, and careful engineering. Engineers completed final countdown procedures, while weather officers monitored upper atmosphere winds above the Atlantic, ensuring every condition remained acceptable before committing to launch. Across the launch complex, radios crackled with steady confirmations, as every subsystem reported ready. There were no dramatic speeches, only disciplined checklists guiding each final step. Then, without ceremony, the rocket engine ignited, unleashing enormous power beneath the launch vehicle, as history prepared to leave Earth with an unlikely passenger aboard. The launch pad disappeared beneath expanding clouds of steam and fire, while more than 350 kilonewtons of thrust lifted Mercury-Redstone steadily into the morning sky. Violent vibrations surged through the capsule, as powerful acceleration forced Ham deep into his couch, beneath forces several times greater than his normal body weight. Every natural instinct encouraged complete stillness. Yet almost immediately, the first blue task light illuminated before him, demanding a trained response under extraordinary physical pressure. Ham reached forward and moved the correct lever. Moments later, another signal appeared, and once again his response arrived accurately, despite the intense acceleration. As the rocket climbed beyond Earth's dense lower atmosphere, Ham continued operating the control panel with remarkable consistency, astonishing scientists monitoring incoming telemetry below. His reaction time slowed only slightly, despite overwhelming physical stress, providing the first convincing evidence that intelligent thought survived the violence of rocket-powered ascent. Yet high above Earth, events quietly drifted beyond the carefully calculated mission plan, as an unexpected mechanical problem began altering the spacecraft's intended trajectory. A valve inside the Redstone rocket remained open longer than engineers intended, allowing the engine to continue producing thrust for several precious additional seconds. The spacecraft accelerated faster than planned, climbing higher and traveling farther across the Atlantic, creating a far more demanding return than mission designers anticipated. Inside the capsule, Ham could not see the changing trajectory beyond the metal walls. He experienced the unexpected flight only through shifting physical forces. The crushing pressure of ascent suddenly disappeared as the engine shut down, replacing relentless acceleration with unfamiliar stillness, unlike anything Ham had experienced during training. For the first time in Project Mercury's history, an intelligent primate floated freely through the weightless environment beyond Earth's atmosphere, beginning humanity's earliest cognitive experiment in space. Small particles drifted gently inside the cabin, while Ham, restrained by secure harnesses, felt almost weightless against the couch supporting his body throughout the mission. The experiment continued without pause. Another blue task light illuminated before him, demanding the same disciplined response, practiced repeatedly during countless hours of rigorous preparation. Ham reached forward once again, moving the correct lever almost as quickly as he had during training sessions conducted safely on the ground before launch. Another signal immediately followed. Once more, Ham responded accurately, demonstrating remarkable concentration, while floating in an environment no intelligent creature had previously experienced. Mission controllers carefully compared every reaction against months of training records, searching for even the smallest signs that weightlessness might impair intelligent decision-making. The differences measured only fractions of a second, providing powerful evidence that perception, judgment, and purposeful action remained reliable during the brief period of weightlessness. One of the greatest unknowns surrounding human spaceflight quietly transformed into measurable scientific evidence, as Ham continued performing exactly as researchers had hoped. Meanwhile, outside the capsule, Mercury climbed beyond its planned altitude, eventually reaching more than 250 kilometers above Earth's surface, far exceeding original mission expectations. Instead of following its intended flight path, the spacecraft traveled much farther downrange across the Atlantic, forcing engineers to rapidly reassess the demanding return ahead. Inside the control room, quick calculations replaced confidence, as specialists realized the spacecraft would re-enter Earth's atmosphere carrying significantly greater speed and energy than planned. Although Mercury remained stable throughout the unexpected flight, Every additional kilometer increased pressure on systems never tested under precisely these challenging conditions before. Soon the spacecraft began falling back toward Earth, ending the peaceful silence of space, as the atmosphere approached with unstoppable force beneath the descending capsule. At first, the atmosphere offered only invisible resistance. Moments later, it became an overwhelming wall of compressed air, surrounding the spacecraft in intense heat. Deceleration climbed rapidly, as Ham was forced hard against his couch, enduring forces approaching 15 times the pull of Earth's gravity during the punishing blood pressed downward through his body, while breathing became increasingly difficult. Yet the demanding experiment continued, even under extraordinary physical stress beyond previous testing conditions. Another task light suddenly appeared before him. Despite overwhelming gravitational forces, Ham reached forward and completed yet another correct response with determined precision. The capsule's landing bag deployed successfully, preparing to soften the coming ocean impact, as Mercury descended rapidly toward the waiting waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Moments later, the spacecraft slammed violently into the Atlantic, surviving splashdown successfully. But an unexpected problem immediately threatened to transform triumph into disaster. During re-entry, a damaged pressure seal allowed seawater to leak into the Mercury capsule, creating a dangerous situation immediately after the successful splashdown in the Atlantic. Recovery crews raced toward the landing site, unaware that water was already rising inside the floating spacecraft, placing both the mission and its passenger at increasing risk. Inside the drifting capsule, seawater slowly climbed around Ham's feet, while each passing ocean swell caused the spacecraft to bob lower into the restless Atlantic waters. Recovery helicopters expected to find a stable capsule awaiting retrieval, but instead discovered Mercury settling dangerously lower, as water steadily filled its interior. If the capsule slipped beneath the surface before rescue crews secured it, both Ham and the invaluable mission data could be lost within sight of recovery. Rotor blades thundered overhead, as the first recovery helicopter carefully positioned itself above the drifting capsule, confronting a situation far more urgent than anticipated. From above, the crew clearly saw Mercury riding unusually low in the water, its damaged pressure seal allowing seawater to enter with every passing moment. Despite challenging ocean winds, the helicopter hovered with remarkable precision, while a recovery cable descended toward the partially flooded spacecraft floating below. A recovery swimmer prepared for immediate action, knowing the capsule might sink before it could be safely lifted from the Atlantic's unpredictable waters. Timing became absolutely critical, as rescuers secured the lifting hook, allowing the helicopter's powerful engines to begin raising Mercury slowly above the waves. Water streamed from the spacecraft's exterior, as the capsule emerged from the Atlantic, suspended safely beneath the helicopter after narrowly escaping permanent loss beneath the sea. Only after Mercury reached the recovery ship did technicians begin carefully opening the capsule, eager to discover the condition of its remarkable passenger inside. Heavy bolts were released one by one, before the hatch finally swung open, revealing Ham alive, alert, and surprisingly energetic after his extraordinary journey. Despite violent launch, unexpected acceleration, weightlessness, punishing re-entry, and the flooding capsule, Ham immediately showed curiosity toward the people surrounding him aboard the recovery ship. As handlers approached, Ham reportedly accepted an apple and half an orange, calmly eating, while physicians hurried to complete detailed medical examinations. The contrast amazed everyone present. America's most demanding biological spaceflight had ended, not with collapse or panic, but with quiet resilience and remarkable composure. Soon afterward, incoming telemetry confirmed exactly what recovery crews had witnessed, providing detailed scientific evidence supporting Ham's extraordinary performance throughout the mission. Throughout every demanding phase of flight, Ham completed his assigned tasks with remarkable accuracy, even while enduring conditions never before experienced by an intelligent primate. Scientists found that his reaction times increased only modestly during the mission, remaining comfortably within limits considered acceptable for future human astronauts. Although his heartbeat and breathing reflected intense physical stress, higher cognitive function remained fully effective, providing the convincing evidence Project Mercury desperately needed. Inside Mercury program meeting rooms, the mission's findings carried enormous significance. giving engineers, physicians, and planners unprecedented confidence in humanity's readiness for spaceflight. Engineers refined spacecraft systems, while physicians expanded their understanding of human physiological limits, using valuable information gathered throughout Ham's demanding journey beyond Earth's atmosphere. Mission planners finally possessed direct evidence that a trained primate could think clearly, react accurately, and perform meaningful work successfully while traveling through space. The mission's implications extended far beyond a single flight, fundamentally strengthening confidence that humans could safely perform complex tasks during future space missions. Barely 3 months later, on May 5, 1961, Alan Shepard entered another Mercury capsule for the historic suborbital mission known as Freedom 7. Shepard's flight became a defining moment in American space history, yet it rested firmly upon scientific evidence gathered weeks earlier during Ham's successful mission. High above Earth, Ham had answered critical questions through disciplined actions, performed when no human yet knew whether intelligent thought could survive spaceflight. Ham never understood the Cold War rivalry surrounding his mission, or the worldwide headlines celebrating his remarkable journey beyond Earth's atmosphere and safe return. Newspapers praised the successful flight, while scientists carefully analyzed reaction times, physiological measurements, and telemetry collected throughout every stage of the demanding mission. Engineers revised procedures using lessons learned from every unexpected event, including the overperforming Redstone rocket and the leaking capsule after splashdown. Inside laboratories and control rooms, those carefully documented results became an essential foundation, supporting the continued progress of Project Mercury toward human spaceflight. For Ham himself, life changed more quietly, as he left behind the designation number 65 and became a recognizable symbol of the emerging space age. Cameras followed his appearances, while visitors gathered eagerly, hoping to see the chimpanzee whose extraordinary flight preceded America's first astronauts into space. Behind those photographs stood a far more complicated legacy, shaped by scientific necessity, ethical responsibility, and difficult decisions made during the earliest years of exploration. Animal research had answered questions too dangerous to ask human volunteers without evidence, placing Ham's mission at the center of an enduring ethical discussion. His flight remains one of history's clearest reminders that scientific progress has often depended upon lives that never freely chose the journeys they undertook. After completing his mission, Ham spent many years under human care, first living at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., before relocating later. He eventually moved to the North Carolina Zoo, spending his remaining decades far removed from rockets, countdowns, and the dangers of experimental spaceflight. Visitors saw an aging chimpanzee, rarely imagining the violent launch, silent weightlessness, and punishing atmospheric return forever preserved within his extraordinary experience. Although his mission lasted only about 16.5 minutes, those remarkable moments transformed decades of uncertainty into lasting scientific confidence. Space was no longer believed to erase intelligence beneath extreme acceleration or weightlessness. A living mind could adapt, think clearly, and continue making purposeful decisions. Ham demonstrated that perception remained reliable, deliberate choices were still possible, and trained hands could respond accurately, despite the extraordinary conditions encountered during spaceflight. This knowledge transformed engineering assumptions into operational confidence, giving Project Mercury the evidence needed to move boldly toward carrying America's first astronauts into space. History would soon celebrate names including Shepard, Glenn, Tereshkova, Armstrong, and many others, whose achievements carried humanity farther into space than ever before. Those remarkable accomplishments deserved every honor received. Yet before those celebrated missions, another explorer had quietly crossed the threshold first, without seeking recognition or glory. Ham became an unwilling pioneer, whose disciplined actions answered questions that no machine alone could resolve, forever shaping the future of human space exploration. Ultimately, Ham's story reaches beyond one chimpanzee, or one mission, revealing how history advances through evidence gathered during uncertain moments before every great leap. Long before humanity truly became a spacefaring species, one small passenger proved that intelligence could survive the journey, forever changing the future of exploration beyond Earth.